Artificial intelligence is presenting a real challenge to the American workforce. A fresh new report shows more than 10,000 jobs have been cut so far this year due to the rise of generative AI in private companies.
The positions that are at most risk are going to be positions that involve a lot of repeatable actions, data entry, data analysis, anything that requires you to sort through all sorts of documents at scale. That's something that AI can do really easily.
And so I'd say maybe 20-30% of the code that is inside of our repos today in some of our projects are probably all written by software.
Computer programming jobs in America just hit their lowest level since 1980, which is quite a statement when you consider the U.S. workforce grew by 3/4 during that same period. We're talking about a collapse from over 700,000 workers at the peak to under 350,000 today. That's not a gentle decline. That's a 27% freefall in under 3 years. But here's the thing that should terrify you. This happened while tech companies were posting record profits. Microsoft, Google, Amazon, swimming in cash, making more money than ever, and eliminating the exact jobs that used to create the middle class. February 2024, Microsoft's CEO casually mentions during an earnings call that 30% of the company's code is now written by AI. Through GitHub Copilot, developers are coding over 50% faster. Pull requests that used to take almost 10 days now take about 2.5. So Microsoft did what any rational corporation would do with that productivity explosion. They laid off over 15,000 people in 2025. About 40% of those cuts? Software engineers. The company got more productive, made more money, fired the people who used to do the work. Stanford researchers tracked something interesting. Employment among workers aged 22 to 25 in AI-exposed occupations dropped roughly 13% since 2022. But specifically software engineering and customer service, those plummeted 20% between late 2022 and mid-2025. Over 50,000 entry-level positions just vanished. In 30 months, big tech companies cut new graduate hiring by about 1/4 in 2024 versus 2023. Through position elimination, while they were growing revenue, the jobs disappeared while students were in their senior year of college preparing for careers that no longer existed. Here's what makes this absolutely insane. Programming used to have this beautiful pyramid structure. Lots of junior developers at the bottom doing routine work and learning the craft. Mid-level developers managing teams. Senior architects at the top designing complex systems. The juniors learned by doing boring stuff. Bug fixes, basic features, code reviews. That's how you built expertise over 5, 7, 10 years until you could handle complex problems. AI just deleted the bottom 2 layers of that pyramid. Companies still desperately need the architects, the senior people who understand system design. But they don't need the 50 junior developers who used to support each senior engineer. They need maybe 5 people to review what the AI generates. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects computer programmers will see employment decline about 10% over the next decade. But software developers, the broader category including architects and AI specialists, will grow almost 18% in the same period. Translation? If you already know what you're doing, you're golden. If you want to learn by starting at the bottom, the ladder doesn't have a bottom anymore. MIT researchers found something darkly hilarious. Experienced developers using AI tools actually took almost 20% longer than developers working without AI assistance. The AI that's supposedly making everyone more productive is slowing down the people who know what they're doing. Because AI is phenomenal at routine tasks. Writing boilerplate code, generating basic functions, handling repetitive patterns. For complex problem solving, the experienced developer spends more time reviewing and fixing AI mistakes than just writing the code themselves. But for someone who doesn't know what they're doing yet, the AI is incredible. Which means companies don't need to hire entry-level workers to write that simple code anymore. We've created this perfect storm where the people who need AI least benefit most, and the people who could benefit most don't get hired because AI replaced their role before they started. Stanford computer science graduates with 3.7 GPAs are sending 200+ job applications and getting 0 offers. They spent 4 years and $80,000 preparing for careers that disappeared before they could start them. Entry-level positions now require 3 to 5 years experience, which is like requiring a driver's license to take driver's ed. Customer service is experiencing something even more dramatic. A Swedish payments company called Klarna deployed an AI chatbot in February 2024. 1 month later, that AI was handling over 2 million customer conversations, 3/4 of their customer chats. It replaced 700 full-time agents. Resolution time dropped from 11 minutes to 2 minutes. The company projected $40 million in profit improvement. Teleperformance, a massive customer service outsourcing company, watched their stock crater almost 30% the day those numbers went public. Investors recognized an entire industry just became obsolete. Klarna froze hiring and reduced headcount by about a fifth through attrition. Same outcome as layoffs, no headlines, no severance packages. Just quietly shrinking the workforce as people quit. Plot twist. Klarna's CEO reversed course in early 2025. Admitted the AI-only approach led to lower quality. Started hiring humans again. The AI handled over 90% of queries successfully, but that remaining sliver requiring human judgment proved critical. Except Klarna's human workforce remains way below pre-AI levels. They didn't rehire 700 people, maybe 200. That's augmentation after replacement. About 80% of organizations now use generative AI for customer service. Roughly 95% of customer interactions are expected to be AI-powered by 2025. Customer service centers that employed 500 people are transforming into facilities with 50 AI oversight specialists. That's 90% workforce reduction. The economists are having a field day with wildly different predictions. Goldman Sachs says somewhere between 6 and 7% of the U.S. workforce could be displaced. The IMF warns that 40% of global employment is exposed, rising to 60% in advanced economies. And then you've got Dario Amodei, CEO of Anthropic, one of the companies actually building these AI systems. His projection? Half of all entry-level white-collar jobs eliminated within 5 years. 50% in 5 years. That's from someone who knows what's in the development pipeline right now. Systems that haven't been released, capabilities the public hasn't seen. He called it a potential white-collar bloodbath and said most CEOs have no idea what's coming because they're looking at current capabilities instead of what's being built. Meanwhile, MIT economist Daron Acemoglu just won the Nobel Prize in economics and thinks everyone's high on hype. His numbers? GDP increases maybe 1 to 1.5% total over the next 10 years. He thinks only about a fifth of job tasks are exposed to AI, and less than a quarter of those can be profitably automated. So who's right? The guy building the AI who says half the entry-level jobs disappear in 5 years, or the Nobel winner who says it's mostly hype? That answer determines whether 30 million Americans lose their jobs or 2 million. Here's what nobody mentions about displacement. When you lose your job to automation, your earnings stay depressed for 2 decades. Even 20 years after displacement, annual earnings remain somewhere between 10 and 20% below where they were. About 40% of people who find full-time work after displacement earn less than their previous job. And that only counts people who find full-time work. Roughly 1 in 5 just leave the labor force entirely. The government tracked over 6 million displaced workers from 2021 through 2023. Only about 2/3 were re-employed by early 2024. Age determines everything. Workers in their prime working years had roughly a 75% chance of finding work again. Workers in their late 50s? About 55%. Workers over 65? About 1 in 3. More than half of workers over 65 just left the labor force after displacement. Forced retirement, whether they could afford it or not. So if you're 26 and lose your programming job to AI, you'll probably find something else eventually. You'll just earn less forever. If you're 56, coin flip whether you work again. But here's the piece nobody wants to discuss. We're not just eliminating jobs. We're eliminating the training ground where expertise gets built. The entry-level positions where you make mistakes on low-stakes projects. The junior roles where you slowly develop skills over years. Companies need senior experts, but they won't hire junior workers who would become those experts. It's like eliminating the minor leagues and expecting the majors to stay fully staffed. Eventually, the senior people retire. and there's nobody to replace them because an entire generation never learned. Law firms discovered they can replace entire research teams with software subscriptions, costing a fraction of previous labor expenses. Almost 80% of law firms adopted AI tools by 2025. One study projects over 2/3 of hourly billable work performed by paralegals could be automated. Accounting firms are running the same playbook. About 85% of accounting professionals express excitement about AI. The ones using it save about 80 minutes daily. Firms report finalizing monthly statements about a week faster. Data entry, invoice processing, reconciliation. Some estimates suggest over 90% of that work could be automated. Companies aren't doing mass layoffs. They're just not backfilling positions. Creative professions thought to be uniquely human are experiencing unexpected displacement. A Chinese marketing firm ended contracts with content writers and designers, fully and indefinitely, 2 days after receiving OpenAI licensing. Duolingo laid off roughly 10% of contractors in late 2023, and additional writers in October 2024. Somewhere between 50 and 100 translators and content creators, as the CEO declared an AI-first strategy. Remaining workers now review AI output rather than create original content. Medical transcription has been 99% automated. About 40% of medical coding is projected to be automated by 2025. Walmart's self-checkout expansion could eliminate 8,000 cashier positions. About 65% of cashier and checkout jobs face automation by 2025. The real crisis isn't just the jobs disappearing now, it's the expertise that won't exist in 10 years because we stopped training people. An entire generation that never got the chance to learn. And 10 years from now, when companies desperately need those people, they'll discover nobody knows how to do the work anymore. The entry-level positions that built the middle class for 2 generations just got deleted. And we're pretending this is about innovation and progress when it's really about companies discovering they can eliminate entire layers of their workforce and call it efficiency. The ladder got pulled up, and everyone still at the bottom is discovering they're not climbing anymore, they're just falling.